the balance of fairness at the outset that this is one of two events. So the WPCC, who are non-political, are running this event first, and then on the 9th of June, I think at Weymouth College at the moment, they will also be running an in-event with a similar format, a panel and Q&A. So anyone who's in the audience who wants to go to that, that's a date that's coming up.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's great to see you all here. We're told that the public meeting is dead. The public aren't interested. The fact you've packed this venue tonight shows that you care and you are interested, and we must thank Richard Drax, the local MP, for putting... Probably the last nice thing I'm going to say about any elected Conservative government. I've been on this kick now for over 20 years. I worked in business, I had a proper job, unlike Cameron and Osborne, and did the whole front thing. You know what I'm talking about? Yep. The college kids that go from Oxford to the research office, become chancellors and prime ministers, and have never done a proper day's work in their lives. I got involved in this for one very simple reason. I believe that those that went before us, those generations that went before us, gave and in many cases sacrificed everything they had so that we and the rest of Europe could be free nation-state democracies, and I was not prepared to stand by. I've campaigned for 20 years. I've stood in by-elections, general elections, European elections, and indeed in my first ever election, in the Eastleigh by-election over 20 years ago, I managed, by the clear, thumping margin of 164 clear votes, to beat the late, great, screaming Lord Such. Things over the years, bad and dangerous and crank and gadfly and worse, and my favourite, of course, fruitcake. I'm very, very happy with that. And I did worry for many years that I might become the patron saint of lost causes. But no, something is happening, isn't it? Yeah. On this platform tonight, we have a senior businessman from Wetherspoon's pub chain. Tim, I'm one of your best customers. And we have Jake from Labour, and we have our local Conservative MP. Do not let anybody in the press or elsewhere tell you that this issue of whether we govern our own nation or not is a left-wing or a right-wing issue. It is neither of those things. This is not about left and right. It's about right and wrong. And right. And the battle lines are drawn and they're clear. On the Remain side, or should we, for the sake of this conversation, call them the Remainians? That always seems to get me into terrible trouble. I can't. But on the Remain side, what do we have? We have the giant multinational businesses, like Siemens Engineering, telling us we must stay part of this European political club. We have Goldman Sachs. We have the man I was debating with last night, Lord Mandelson. God. Oh, there's more to come. We've got Nick Clegg. We've got Tony Blair. And we've got a Prime Minister who appears to be incapable of telling the truth or running a full, free and fair referendum campaign. They are trying to threaten us. They're trying to bully us. They're trying to tell us that without being part of this structure, without being part of a union, that has a flag and an anthem and is run by a bunch of unelected old men who I've crossed swords with once or twice over the years. But they're telling us unless we were part of this structure that all trade would cease. That's the argument, isn't it? The argument is millions of jobs at risk. The argument is we'd lose billions of pounds of income. Can I just explain this to you? Trade is not made by politicians. Trade is not made by bureaucrats. Trade is made by customers and consumers who choose to buy a car, who choose to buy a mobile phone. Trade is about the buyer being the king of the marketplace. And I'll tell you something, regardless of whether we're in or outside the European Union, if we like German motor cars, we will go on buying them. If we like French wine, I will go on buying it. And this idea that without the EU we would not be doing business is fallacious. We're told we're not capable of making our own trade deals. I first saw this when I debated head-to-head in 2014, 2 one-hour televised debates against Nick Clegg. And there was a point in the debate when Clegg said, we are not big enough as a country. We are not strong enough as a nation to be able to negotiate trade deals on the global stage. We have to be part of a bigger European club. And I said, Nick, we are big enough. I said, we're a country of 65 million people. Well, of course, I was underestimating a bit, wasn't I, really? When you have open borders, how would you know? I said, Nick, we're a country of 65 million people. I said, Iceland, who've got a third of a million population, have just negotiated their own trade deal with China. I said, I'm damn certain that if they're big enough and strong enough to stand on their own 2 feet, then we're big enough and strong enough to stand on our own 2 feet. And then it hit me. It hit me what he was really saying was not that we weren't big enough, was not that we weren't strong enough. I said, Nick, you just don't think we're good enough, do you? And isn't that the point? Isn't that what they're all saying? They're talking down Britain. We're not good enough to make our own laws in our own parliament. We're not good enough to make our own trade policy. We're not good enough to stand on our own 2 feet. In fact, Cameron even said it might take us 10 years to renegotiate trade deals. But what are they employing in Whitehall? Cretins? Ever since Suez, the political class in this country have collectively lost faith in who you are as a people and in who we are as a nation. And I stand here before you unashamedly proud and patriotic to be British, and I say this to you. With all the arguments about uncertainty or certainty, whether we stay in or whether we leave this European Union, there is one absolute certainty, and it's this. If we vote to leave this European Union, we become, once again, an independent, self-governing, democratic nation, and we will be the masters of our own destiny. And I believe we will do that better than anybody in the European Union. But of course, they've all been bought. They've been bought with your money, haven't they? As Kate said earlier, failures in British politics go off to the European Commission. Failures who lose their seats in Parliament go off to the European Parliament. And bureaucrats go off to work in the Commission the Parliament and the Council of Ministers. And it is the biggest gravy train that has yet been invented for government. Think of this and ask yourself why the ruling classes support this project. How many people in Brussels working for the European Union earn more money than David Cameron? 10,000 people. That should tell you all that you need to know. And in return for being bought with money, and bought with titles and knighthoods and peerages, which Tim now is not going to get. Tim, you'll be up there. But in return for all of this, and in return for a few trinkets in regional aid, we're being told this is our future. And ladies and gentlemen, what they have done is they have given away far too much. They have given away our birthright. They have given away the ability of us to govern our own country. They have betrayed the legacy of those that went before us. And let's start making an argument that leaving this European Union will bring back power, prosperity and pride and self-confidence in this nation. Let's make that argument. Here in Weymouth, a famous fishing port, we have a commercial fishing industry, but we also have the biggest charter boat angling fleet in the entire United Kingdom. There are 18 full-time boats operating out of Weymouth. There were 30 just a few years ago, but there are 18. And people come to Weymouth from London and all around the country, and they stay in the guest houses, they stay in the hotels, they spend money in the pubs and the restaurants, and they keep men employed taking boats out to sea. But as a result of a European Union regulation that came in December of last year, that was not voted on or debated in the European Parliament, was not debated or voted on in the British Parliament, from the 1st of January this year, there is now a total ban on any angler fishing out of Weymouth or elsewhere if they catch a bass, taking one home for their team. And because of that, fewer and fewer people are now coming to Weymouth and spending money, Richard, in your constituency. Can you imagine, in a self-governing nation, that being allowed to happen? Drax and every other MP from coastal constituencies would have stood up in the House of Commons and said, there is no environmental gain, but there is huge economic loss for our community. Add to that the fact that the quota in this part of the channel for our commercial fishermen is 7% of the cod caught, whilst the French get 78% of the cod caught. Is it time we said we want back control of our seas and our fish that swim within it? There are some of you in this room over the age of 58 who voted in that last referendum. You voted, did you not, to remain part of a common market, not a political union. And look what they've done to us. That is a British passport. And what are the first two words on it? European Union. That British passport is now available to 508 million people who have equal rights of citizenship in this country to us. And isn't it time we said we want our British passports back, and we can get that by voting?